Emily woke up on her birthday with a soft smile. She wasn't someone who liked loud parties or big celebrations. All she ever wanted was something small and thoughtful. In the past, her husband Daniel had always done something simple yet sweet, like bringing her flowers, cooking her favorite pasta, or taking her out to their little Italian restaurant downtown. Emily thought this year would be the same. She was happy with that. She didn't need more. The day went by quietly. She answered calls from her parents, texts from friends, and even a video call from her younger sister who lived in Chicago. Everyone wished her a happy birthday. Still, Emily felt a little empty. She told herself not to expect too much from Daniel. He was busy with work lately, and she knew how stressed he had been. When he called her from the office around lunchtime, he only said, "Happy birthday, Em. I'll be home early tonight. Don't make plans. I've got something for you." Those words left her curious. Something for her. A surprise. Daniel wasn't the type who made big gestures. He was reliable, calm, and practical. That was what she loved about him. But it also meant he rarely shocked her with something unexpected. She spent the afternoon wondering what he had in mind. Maybe he had booked a table at the Italian place. Maybe he bought her a necklace or a scarf. She didn't know, but she didn't let her hopes rise too high. When the clock struck 7, she heard the front door open. She rushed to greet Daniel, ready to hug him. But when she saw him, her breath stopped for a second. He wasn't alone. Standing right beside him was a man she hadn't seen in years. Michael. Emily froze. Michael was holding a bouquet of lilies, her favorite flowers, the kind she always bought for herself in the spring. His smile was warm, a little hesitant, almost as if he wasn't sure how she would react. Daniel, on the other hand, was grinning like he had pulled off the best surprise in the world. "Happy birthday," Daniel said cheerfully, setting his briefcase down. He placed his arm around Michael's shoulder. "Look who I ran into a few weeks ago. I thought, what better gift for you than bringing back an old friend? You always said you missed having more company. Well, here he is." Emily's heart was beating too fast. Old friend. That was how Daniel saw Michael. But the truth was far more complicated. Michael wasn't just an old friend. Years ago, long before she had met Daniel, there had been something unspoken between her and Michael. They had never been a couple. They had never even kissed. But there had been a closeness, a pull, the kind of invisible thread that leaves a mark even when nothing happens. Life had taken them in different directions, and Emily had moved on. Yet now, here he was, standing in her living room on her birthday. She tried to steady her voice. "Michael, I didn't expect to see you." Michael's smile grew a little softer, his eyes lingering on hers. "It's been a long time, Emily. Too long." Daniel didn't seem to notice the quiet tension between them. He was too busy talking, too proud of his surprise. "I invited him over for dinner. I thought it would be fun. We can all catch up. Doesn't it feel good to reconnect?" Emily forced a smile. "Yes, of course. Thank you, Daniel." Her hands shook slightly as she took the lilies from Michael. The scent filled her senses, taking her back to spring mornings in college, when she would walk through the farmer's market and sometimes run into him by accident. She placed the flowers in a vase quickly, needing a moment to breathe, needing to calm the rush of old memories that had suddenly come alive. Dinner was simple grilled chicken, roasted vegetables, and salad. Daniel had picked up a cake from her favorite bakery. The three of them sat around the table, laughter spilling out as Daniel and Michael shared old college stories. Emily laughed too, though her laughter felt different. Every time Michael looked at her, something stirred inside her chest. She noticed how he still leaned forward when he spoke, how his eyes seemed to search hers whenever she smiled. Daniel was so pleased, so relaxed. He had no idea that the gift he had brought for Emily was not just an old friend, which a piece of her past, some memory wrapped in longing. For Daniel, it was a thoughtful surprise. For Emily, it was a storm she hadn't expected. At one point, Daniel excused himself to answer a work call. Suddenly, the room grew quieter. Emily sat across from Michael, her fingers tapping the edge of her glass nervously. Michael's gaze was steady, filled with something unspoken. "I didn't think I'd ever see you again," he said softly. Emily's throat tightened. She wanted to say something, but her words tangled. She glanced toward the hallway where Daniel's voice echoed faintly. She swallowed hard, forcing a light tone. Yes, it has been a long time. I'm glad you're here. But inside, her heart was racing. She hadn't expected this. She hadn't asked for this. And yet, on her birthday, her husband had unknowingly opened a door to a past she thought was gone forever. The night was only beginning, and Emily sensed it would not end the way she imagined. The laughter at the dinner table continued, but Emily felt a strange mix of joy and unease. Daniel was relaxed, clearly enjoying the moment, telling stories about college pranks and late-night adventures with Michael. Michael listened, chimed in occasionally, and smiled at Emily in a way that made her heart skip. Each laugh, each glance seemed layered with meaning she hadn't expected. Emily tried to stay present. She laughed at Daniel's jokes, commented on the stories, but her mind kept drifting to memories she had tried to bury. She remembered sitting in the campus library, Michael across from her, their knees almost touching under the table as they studied. She remembered how he had once stayed with her until the rain stopped, sharing an umbrella in the dark streets. Those moments had never led to anything romantic, so she had thought, but they had left a soft mark on her heart. Seeing him again now brought it all rushing back. When Daniel excused himself to take a call from work, the air shifted. Suddenly, Emily and Michael were alone at the table. Silence settled in, thick and heavy, carrying the weight of years. Michael's eyes met hers, steady and searching. There was something different in his gaze tonight. Tenderness, a softness, an honesty that made her pulse quicken. "I've thought about this for a long time," Michael said quietly, almost as if speaking to himself. "Seeing you again, it brings back a lot." Emily swallowed hard. Her hands trembled slightly as she held her glass. "I didn't expect to see you either," she admitted. Her voice was calm, but inside, her heart was a storm. Michael reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face, not touching her in a way that could be considered improper, but enough to make her notice the lingering warmth of his hand. "You look the same, but different. Stronger. Happier, maybe." Emily didn't know how to respond. She wanted to tell him that she was happy, that she loved Daniel. But she also wanted to confess how seeing him made her remember feelings she hadn't acknowledged in years. She stayed silent, letting the tension hang between them. The conversation shifted naturally to lighter topics: college memories, mutual friends, old professors. They laughed again, but this time the laughter felt intimate, a shared secret between them. Emily noticed small things: how Michael tilted his head when he smiled, how his voice softened when he mentioned her name, the way his eyes lingered on her for just a moment too long. She could feel herself drawn into the orbit of the man she had once almost loved. Suddenly, the sound of Daniel returning from his call made them both sit a little straighter. Michael offered a polite smile, and Emily forced one back. Daniel came in, humming happily, unaware of the undercurrent between his wife and his friend. He placed a plate of dessert on the table, Emily's favorite chocolate moussande, looked at them both. "I thought we could finish the evening with this," Daniel said. "It's your favorite?" "I wanted tonight to feel special." Emily nodded, smiling, but inside a quiet storm brewed. She knew Daniel's intentions were pure. He was thoughtful, kind, and completely devoted to her. He had not planned any of this to stir old emotions. Yet, somehow, the presence of Michael, the reminder of the past, and the tension of unspoken feelings had created a whirlwind inside her heart. After dessert, Michael and Emily found themselves in the living room, clearing plates and chatting. Daniel went to check on something in the kitchen, giving them another moment alone. Michael leaned against the sofa casually, his eyes never leaving her face. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if, back then?" He began, letting the words trail off. Emily's breath caught. She wanted to answer, to tell him all the thoughts she had once carried silently. But she also knew she couldn't. She loved Daniel. She had chosen him, married him, built a life with him. Yet, hearing Michael's words, feeling the weight of his gaze, she realized that the past was not as distant as she had imagined. I don't know," she said finally, her voice soft. "I try not to think about it." Things happen for a reason, I guess. Michael nodded, understanding, but his eyes held a quiet longing. I know. I needed you to know that it mattered to me, always. Emily felt a lump in her throat. She wanted to say more, but Daniel's laughter floated from the kitchen. It was a reminder that the present, the life she had built, was right there waiting for her. She swallowed the rising tide of emotion and smiled at Michael, a smile that was warm but careful. I appreciate you saying that, she whispered. The evening moved on. Daniel suggested they play a game, a silly trivia he and Michael had enjoyed in college. Emily joined in, but she noticed the little glances exchanged between the two men. The way they laughed together, the easy camaraderie that had existed before she came into their lives. It made her feel slightly out of place, yet oddly included. She realized that Michael was not just a reminder of the past. He was a bridge between the life she had once imagined and the life she now lived, as the night grew later. Daniel excused himself to get more drinks. Michael and Emily were left sitting close on the sofa. The silence returned, but it was different this time. Softer, more charged. Emily felt her heart beat faster, a mixture of excitement and guilt. Longing and restraint. Emily, Michael said quietly. Leaning just a little closer, I never stopped caring about you. Not really. Her chest tightened. She wanted to tell him that she had moved on, that she loved Daniel. But the truth was that she had never truly forgotten Michael. There was a part of her heart that had always belonged to him, even if she had never acted on it. Before she could respond, Daniel returned with the drinks, laughing about a joke only he and Michael understood. The moment shattered, leaving Emily's emotions swirling in confusion. She smiled at Daniel, masking the storm inside. Her birthday had started as a simple, quiet evening, but had turned into something far more complicated. Emily realized that tonight was not just about celebrating her birthday. It was about confronting old memories, buried feelings, and the subtle stirrings of a heart that had once almost been broken in a different way. She understood that by the end of the night, her heart would have to choose between the life she loved and the memories she couldn't quite forget. And as she sipped her drink, watching Michael laugh across the room, she knew the real story of her birthday was only beginning. Later that evening, after dinner and dessert, the atmosphere in Emily's living room changed. The laughter had settled into a quiet, comfortable hum, but beneath it, a tension lingered, soft, almost invisible, yet impossible to ignore. Daniel had gone to the kitchen to prepare a surprise he promised for Emily, a small video montage of memories from their life together. That left Emily alone with Michael. And the quiet between them felt heavy with words unspoken for years. Michael leaned back on the sofa, watching her. His eyes were gentle, patient, but there was a raw honesty there that made Emily's chest tighten. She wanted to look away, but she couldn't. He had always had this effect on her, a way of drawing her attention without trying. She took a deep breath, trying to steady the rush of emotions, the memories flooding her mind. I've thought about this moment for a long time, Michael said, his voice low but clear. Seeing you now sitting here, I never thought I'd get another chance to talk to you like this. Emily swallowed hard. Her hands resting on her lap clenched slightly. I don't know what to say, she admitted. Her voice sounded small, fragile, even to her own ears. She wanted to tell him that she loved Daniel, that she had moved on, that everything was fine, but the truth was more complicated. Seeing Michael again stirred something inside her she hadn't felt in years. Michael's gaze softened, and he leaned just a little closer. Not too close, just enough to make her aware of the warmth in his presence. Back then, I never told you what I felt. I should have. I wanted to. I wanted you to know that I cared. More than just a friend. Emily's heart skipped a beat. She remembered those years, the quiet afternoons in the library, the walks in the rain, the small moments that never became anything more, yet had left a mark. And now, hearing him confess it, she felt a mix of nostalgia, longing, and guilt. Her mind raced, trying to reconcile the past with the present. I didn't know, she whispered, her voice trembling. I thought it was just friendship. Michael shook his head slightly, a small, sad smile on his lips. It was more for me, Emily, always. But I respected your space, your life. And then, life happened. We drifted apart, and I thought I'd never see you again. The words hit her differently than she expected. Part of her wanted to reach out, to touch the warmth of his hand, to let herself remember what it felt like to be noticed. Really noticed by someone who had once been so close. Another part of her whispered that she couldn't, that she loved Daniel and had built a life with him. Yet the emotional pull was undeniable, and her heart refused to stay calm. Michael's gaze never wavered. Emily, I don't expect anything from you. I needed to say it. You deserve to know the truth. You deserve to know how I felt. Emily blinked back a few tears, feeling both relief and pain. Relief that he had been honest, that she didn't have to guess. And pain because she realized how much she had wondered about it quietly in the past. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that, she said softly, her fingers fidgeting with the edge of her sleeve. For a moment, they sat in silence. Outside, the wind brushed against the windows. A soft, almost cinematic sound. Emily felt her chest tighten with emotion, the kind that leaves your heart racing but your mind spinning. She wanted to say so much more but didn't. There were boundaries, respect, and love involved. Daniel had no idea of this undercurrent, and she wasn't willing to betray him. But still, the presence of Michael, the weight of his confession, had shaken something loose inside her. As if on cue, Daniel returned from the kitchen. He was smiling, holding a tablet with the video montage ready to play. Emily, you're going to love this, he said brightly. Completely unaware of the tension in the room, Emily forced a smile, quickly brushing away the lingering emotions. I'm sure I will, she said, her voice steady but softer than usual. Michael gave her a small, understanding nod, almost as if he knew she was trying to regain her composure. The video began. Photos of Emily and Daniel flashed across the screen, pictures from their first date. Their wedding, quiet moments at home, family gatherings, and little adventures they had taken together. Each frame brought back warm memories, the kind that made her heart ache in a good way. She realized how much they had shared, how much love they had built over the years, and how deeply Daniel cared for her. Michael watched too, his expression gentle, almost protective. He didn't speak, allowing Emily to be immersed in her memories with Daniel. She felt a sudden rush of gratitude for him being there, for allowing her to hold on to what she had without complicating things further. Yet, even as her heart filled with love for Daniel, she couldn't ignore the tiny, lingering ache Michael's presence had stirred. When the video ended, Emily turned toward Michael. He stood, a small, almost sad smile on his face. I should probably go, he said quietly. I don't want to overstay or make things complicated. Emily felt a pang of emotion. She wanted to stop him, to ask him to stay a little longer, to talk a little more. But she knew better. Thank you for being here, Michael, and thank you for telling me how you feel, she said softly. Her eyes glistened with unspoken words, with memories, and with gratitude. He nodded. Take care, Emily. Be happy. You deserve it. And with that, he walked to the door, pausing for a moment to glance back at her one last time. Emily felt her heart tighten, but she also felt a sense of closure. He had said what needed to be said, and now it was time to focus on the life she had chosen. Daniel walked over, wrapping his arms around Emily. Happy birthday, love, he whispered, resting his head gently against hers. Emily leaned into him, taking in the warmth, the familiarity, the steady heartbeat that had been with her through everything. She realized that while Michael had stirred old feelings, it was Daniel who had stood by her, who had loved her through all the small and big moments of life. As she closed her eyes, she made a quiet promise to herself to cherish what she had, to honor the love that had grown stronger over the years, and to be grateful for the reminders of the past without letting them shake her present. And for the first time that night, Emily felt a calm settle over her heart. She had faced the echoes of what might have been and returned to the love that had always been real. The living room was quiet now, except for the soft hum of the evening outside and the fading glow of the lights. Emily sat beside Daniel on the sofa, feeling the warmth of his presence surround her like a shield. The events of the evening, Michael's unexpected visit, his confession, the rush of old memories still lingered in her chest. But the montage of her life with Daniel reminded her where her heart truly belonged. She rested her head lightly against him, inhaling the familiar scent of his cologne. The simple comfort of his arms around her, Daniel smiled, noticing her thoughtful silence. "Did you like the video?" he asked, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Emily nodded, forcing a bright smile, but inside a swirl of emotions churned. "I loved it," she said softly. "It reminded me of everything we've built together." He kissed her temple gently, his warmth and steadiness grounding her. "We've made so many memories," he said, "and there are still so many more to come." Emily's mind wandered briefly to Michael. She remembered his words, the way he had confessed his feelings, the quiet intensity of his gaze. It had stirred something in her she hadn't expected. And yet, as she leaned against Daniel, she realized that those feelings were echoes of the past. They were memories, reminders of what might have been. But they could never replace the love and life she shared with Daniel. After a moment, she pulled back slightly to look at Daniel. "You know," she began, her voice a little shaky but determined. "Tonight reminded me that love isn't about what could have been. It's about what is about the people who stay with you through everything." Daniel nodded, understanding, and squeezed her hand. "Exactly. We're here, together. That's what matters." Just then, the sound of the front door opening made her glance up. Michael was leaving. He had come to say his goodbyes, and the brief moment he lingered at the doorway was heavy with unspoken words. Emily stood and walked toward him, feeling a mixture of gratitude and closure. "Thank you," she said quietly, her voice almost a whisper. "For everything." For being honest tonight, Michael smiled a little wistfully, understanding all that she didn't say. "You're welcome," he replied. "Take care, Emily, and be happy. That's all I ever wanted for you." Emily felt a tug at her heart as he left, but she also felt a sense of relief. The storm of emotions that had swept through her all evening had finally settled. She turned back to Daniel, who was waiting for her with open arms, and felt the steady, unwavering love he offered. Sitting back on the sofa together, Emily let herself relax fully. She realized that while Michael had stirred old memories, Daniel had been her constant, her partner, her home. The unexpected visit had reminded her of the complexity of the heart, but it also reinforced the truth she had known all along. That love was not just about longing or attraction, it was about choosing someone every day, staying with them through life's ups and downs, and cherishing the bond that grew stronger over time. Daniel reached out and held both of her hands in his. "I know tonight was different," he said gently, "but I hope you understand why I wanted to do this. I wanted to give you something special, something meaningful, and maybe a little unexpected." Emily nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming sense of love and gratitude she felt for him. "It was special," she said softly, "and unexpected, yes. But it reminded me of how lucky I am to have you." They sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, letting the warmth of the evening sink in. Outside, the city lights flickered, and the faint sounds of cars and distant laughter filled the night. Emily felt a deep sense of peace. She knew that life could bring surprises, stir old feelings, and challenge her heart in ways she didn't expect. But she also knew that love, the real, enduring kind, was steady, patient, and worth holding on to. Later, Daniel suggested they take a short walk outside. The air was cool and fresh, carrying the scent of blooming flowers from nearby gardens. They walked side by side, hands intertwined, speaking little but understanding everything. Emily felt the simplicity of the moment, the gentle intimacy of their connection, and she realized that happiness often resided in these quiet, shared experiences. As they returned home, Emily felt lighter, freer, and more certain than she had all evening. Michael's visit had been a test of her emotions, a reminder of the past. But it had also reaffirmed the strength of her love for Daniel. She understood that while the heart could remember old flames, The choices she made in the present defined her life. Back inside, they settled on the sofa again, wrapping themselves in a soft blanket. Daniel held her close, and Emily rested her head against his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. She whispered softly, almost to herself, "I choose you every day, and I always will." Daniel kissed the top of her head, his voice a quiet promise. "And I choose you, Emily, always." The evening faded into night, carrying with it the lingering warmth of love, the gentle echo of memories, and the certainty of a future built together. Emily realized that surprises, even unexpected ones, could bring clarity, reflection, and growth. Michael had reminded her of who she once was, but Daniel reminded her of who she had become and the life they shared. As Emily closed her eyes that night, she felt a profound sense of contentment. The unexpected birthday gift a friend from the past had brought emotional turbulence. Yes, but it had also deepened her understanding of love, gratitude, and choice. She had faced the stirrings of old longing, and yet her heart had returned to the love that had always been true. Emily knew that life would continue to bring surprises, challenges, and moments of reflection. But as long as she had Daniel by her side, steady and devoted, she felt ready to face them all. The night had reminded her that love is not just a feeling. It is a decision, an enduring commitment, and a treasure to be cherished every single day. And with that thought, Emily drifted into sleep. Her heart calm, her mind clear, and her spirit full. The birthday that began with an unexpected visitor had turned into a celebration of love, memory, and the quiet but powerful joy of choosing someone you truly care for. She realized, finally, that the best surprises weren't always material gifts or grand gestures. They were moments that reminded her of the love she already had and the life she wanted to continue building. And in Daniel's arms, she knew she had found exactly that.